The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listen
like 30 more seconds.
attentively. There must have been something in all of that nothing.
You got to get the longer version of the video too, so they're not looking at me trying to get everything posted for the first minute.
I think everyone enjoys that, Tom.
You do? All right. Well, fair enough. I'm here for my audience. That's why I'm here.
Well, yeah.
All righty. Let's get this shindig on the road, shall we? Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. And every month we have our Methuen Mayor's Report with Methuen Mayor Neil Perry. Now, this is his third show with us, Ed, but this is his first show as mayor. So we can actually ask some real questions today. And he's only been mayor for like a couple of days. Right. That's right. We're going to pretend
3 days. I've got seniority now.
We're going to pretend that he's been mayor for the last year and everything is his fault.
That's awesome.
And we're just going to throw as much stuff as we can. We want to thank our sponsors. You know, I guess there's something again in the Daily Rag again today about in Sound Off. They have this Sound Off thing.
Oh, I used to read that when I lived
and it's
in
just
North
it's people hiding behind anonymity, throwing bombs, and usually they have absolutely no clue what they're talking about.
Well, it's a lot of sad, lonely people.
Yeah,
too.
it is. So they called in once again, and they're like, "Why is the police sponsoring Neil Perry when that's a conflict of interest?" Yeah, actually, no. If you guys had a brain cell and you actually listened when I podcast a program, the Methuen Police Superior Officers Program, Police Superior Officers Union sponsors this show. They sponsor this show every week, and part of this show is Neil Perry does his Methuen Mayor's Report. He doesn't get paid to do this. He comes in to do this because he wants to have transparency and answer questions. Right, and I'm sorry, he doesn't get paid. Nobody gets paid.
I thought the city got a stipend.
No, there's no stipend. There's no anything. So the Police Superior Officers Union, and I get a lot of crap too from people saying, "Oh, well, you only promote their narrative because they give you money." Newsflash. I've been pro-cop since 2004 when I started this newspaper that, by the way, is not funded by Sharon Pollard. And I think I know it's hard to believe. I actually may have her at the head table at the bash this year, though, Neil, because if I'm going to get accused of it, I might as well at least get something out of the deal. Maybe get her to buy some tickets for once. She's never been. I don't think she's ever been to the bash, so maybe this year we can get a couple of dollars out of it. And then if they want to say I'm funded by Sharon Pollard, at least it's going to be partly true.
I can't think of two people on more different ends of the political spectrum than you and Sharon.
Anybody who has followed me for like the last 10 years, or even going back to my CCM days back in 2000, 2001, Sharon Pollard and I have been on the opposite end of every single election and every single campaign and every single issue. She's a Hillary Clinton supporter. I support Donald Trump. I mean, like, right down the line, right? I was with Manzi. She was with whoever ran against Manzi. So, whatever. The Police Superior Officers Union is a sponsor of the program, and it's mostly because when they call me and they say, here's the real numbers, I publish them. And when they call the Eagle Tribune and say, here's the real numbers, they don't publish them. And so I think it's more them appreciating the fact that I've been a supporter of this for years and years, more than them paying me to give their narrative, which, you know, there's always...
watch me have my first disagreement.
All right, okay, fine.
So
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and bash the Tribune. I'm a friend to all media outlets.
Okay.
So
why?
Well, because the reason why is...
They did nothing but kick the shit out of you through the entire campaign.
Yeah, but, you know, the campaign's over.
All right.
So
you're a better man than I am.
I'm a big believer in what I said here last time. So we're past Team Canan, we're past Team Perry, we're on to Team Methuen.
I'm glad
right?
you are, but my fear is that because you are and they're not, it's going to cause you a lot of problems.
Well, if that's the case, so I love that you said that. But what we're going to do here, Tom, is we're going to be as transparent as possible. So I'm sure at some points we're going to talk about my staff selections during the course of the show.
We'll get to all of it.
That's fine.
Why does Jana kick puppies on Sundays? We're going to get to all of it.
So we're going to do, it's not we're going to do the things that, move the city forward. It's time to move the city forward. And we can only do that if people say, now, and I say this looking at that doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree with everything I do.
Well, I've already disagreed with one of your positions already.
And you gave me your feedback. And
not that it did any good, but I did give him my feedback.
That's correct. But, every decision I make, I'm going to try to make with the best interest of the city of Methuen at heart. And so one of the things I'm going to keep trying to do here is move towards a more positive message for the city, right? I'm going to tell you, there's lots of opportunity for us, but we've got to get most of us moving in the same general direction versus what we've had for the last several years, which is, point and counterpoint, right? And so I'm hopeful. It's January. Yep. It's early.
I know.
I'm in office.
Very naive. This is what I like about him. He's not a politician.
This is day 4. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. Right. But, there's people looking saying, well, of course you're a politician. I guess you become one. But the bottom line is I'm going to make the decisions. And every time we have something, that concerns the citizens of Methuen, we're going to go here. We're going to go to the Tribune. We're going to go to MCTV.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Somebody wrote, why is he doing this sound off again? Why? And, people are saying, well, don't respond to it. But, I'm going to say it for people to look at on the tape because my mother, who's in the hospital, hi, Mom, when you watch this.
Hi, Mom.
Love you.
She's a big fan of the show.
She's a big fan of the show.
What was the sound off piece?
The sound off piece was that I should be doing MCTV.
Instead of my show.
Yeah. But
you're doing both.
I'm doing, so we're going to have, and maybe I don't explain enough when I talk sometimes, we're going to have an integrated communication strategy that goes, I've committed to do this, and I keep my word. You're going to find that, right? I said I'd be here once a month.
It's nice that somebody keeps their word. We've got a few city councils that have already broken theirs.
I'm not going to touch that with
I know you're not, but I'm still saying it.
I'm going to work with all of the city councilors. And if Councilor McCarty's watching, congratulations to you and Councilor Beauregard for getting chair and vice chair.
Yep.
I look forward to working with them. We already set up a weekly and every other week meeting with Councilor McCarty, the chair, so that there's a clearer line of communication.
I'd pay money to be in that meeting.
Well, if it can go to the city of Methuen and not to me, maybe we'll invite you.
All right, fair enough. Let's finish off with our sponsors, Ed. AFC Urgent Care, we love Lisa Williams. She does a lot for the kids in the community.
She's terrific, yeah.
She and her husband, they do a lot. Climate Design Systems, if you've got a heating problem, you want to call Climate Design Systems, especially with winter here. McLennan and Company, Century 21. She loves you, by the way.
She's terrific.
Janet loves you. She's a big fan of yours. Jason Marcoux from Marcoux Towing, who brings us coffee and hot cocoa at the TMF family dinner for the homeless every week. It's funny, I never see the naysayers there, though.
No.
The people who say, I only talk about negative things and I don't do positive things, and they never show up for those kinds of things.
Well, and hopefully, I know you recognize that, I recognize Mike Gorman in my inauguration speech. I am tremendously impressed by Mike and the organization, and we need to do more.
I agree. And, of course, Ron Marsan Construction. We appreciate Ronnie, and we're hoping that he's going to run against Steve Saber in another couple of years, but I'm still working on it. Actually, the way to get to him is through his wife. You got to convince the wife that he should be running, and then he'll run. Because she's really the boss in that family, I heard.
I'm going to stay away from that,
All right,
too.
Very good. So those are our sponsors. We appreciate them. We'll mention them again throughout the show. And by the way, you want to stick around because at the last 10 minutes of the show, Steve Saber's brother, John, who's been kicking the crap out of me all over Facebook and making all kinds of wild accusations, I threw a challenge out to him to come on my show and do it face to face, and he's here. So at least I give him. He's got a lot of balls, and I admire the fact that he's willing to do it face to face.
Yeah.
And at the end of this,
but he's a Methuen resident, so I'm here for him.
You're right. Yeah, so. I'm not a Methuen resident. They didn't complain when I endorsed Steve Saber for city council 2 years ago. They didn't say no, don't endorse Steve Saber. You live in North Andover. They never said any of that. But we'll get to that at the end of the show. And
if there's any way I can help promote harmony between you brothers, I'm here to do.
Well, see, I'm going to offer him, and here's a little preview when he comes up. I'm going to offer him the same deal I offered Jim McCarty. Jim McCarty's constantly texting me saying how I'm only giving one side of the story. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you write a column for the Valley Patriot? Whatever you send, I won't change a word. We'll move commas and correct spelling, but we're not going to change a word. And then you can give what you think the other side of the story is, and then we'll be balanced in your eyes, right? Well, of course, he took a walk. He didn't want to do that. So now he has no more moral high ground to complain. But we're going to offer the same thing to John Saber. He wants to write a column and he wants to kick the crap out of me every week. I'll put it on page 2 and I won't change a word. I believe in free speech. To me, it's not about pushing a narrative. That's why I started my paper, because I believe in free speech.
But I will stop you and say that, after my inauguration speech, I thought maybe I had spun some wisdom there, because I saw you and Councilor McCarty together like one brotherhood of man.
He followed me around all night so that he could force himself into every conversation that I had. And then he ran back to people and said I was bullying people, which is hilarious. Which is absolutely hilarious. I'm actually going to have Jim McCarty on the show at some point in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
He can't come here.
He can't
come here. But we're going to try and work it out so that we can do it somewhere on site, somewhere off site from here. And we'll have him on the show, and I think that would be a great show. He can sit here and tell me how I sucked for the whole hour.
I think it would be awesome to have both Councilor McCarty and myself on at the same time.
Oh, that would be great. Listen, if he's willing to do it, I'd be happy to do it. Because I'm not about pushing a narrative, contrary to what my critics say. I just believe in free speech. And you might not agree with my opinion, but it's because it's my opinion. So you got inaugurated on Monday night. And before we move forward, what was that like? You first time ever running for anything. You're the mayor of Methuen, and you're standing there with all the pomp and circumstance and the police honor guard and all this stuff. What was that like?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. It was amazing. And the people were so positive. Everywhere, the counselors, the school committee members, the Voc Tech members, the Nevins Library trustees. It was an unbelievable experience, and everybody was positive, Tom. Mm-hmm. Right? And I know that's just the inauguration, and you've got to back up your words with action. So I'm extremely mindful of that. But in the inauguration speech, I kind of talked about. I come from an environment where I'm used to being held accountable to a certain set of goals.
Right.
And I can tell you, we've started the process of synthesizing, some of the things. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Actions into accountable goals that we can give to the residents and we can give to others, so that there's measurable progress that people can see. So that some of the things, so that when I say we're going to develop an integrated communication strategy, detailing exactly what that means.
Yeah, because that's a lot of big words, and a lot of people don't understand what that means.
But Jana's right here.
I'm not very
she
bright.
Can tell you that, I've already given it probably too many actions to kind of specific things. So one tentacle of that would be this program.
Love it.
Right? This is part of that. MCTV is part of it. The Tribune is part of it. We've got thoughts around
Methuen Life. He's not a bad guy.
He's in. Steve Whipple's a great guy.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy.
We've
had our issues over the years, but he's still a pretty good guy.
But also part of the website is the City of Methuen website is not an easy place to navigate. So we're going to look at facilitating that and how we provide more information. Just before we came here, we met with the superintendent of schools. It was a great conversation. It went 2 hours. It could have gone 10 hours in my mind, right? It was lots of good content. How do we share information? Not just about, we've got a city council meeting coming up, but what are the detailed facts of the agendas items? How do you see the resolutions and the ordinances and understand exactly what they are well in advance? And how do you work with city council and others? And how do you broadcast this out so that, the community has a better understanding and appreciation for what's going on? So those, to me, are all elements, and there's more to this integrated communication strategy. Sometimes I need to take it out of what I'm used to in the executive side and kind of move it down into what we're trying to do here, right?
So you get inaugurated, the pomp and circumstances over. Mm-hmm. The next day, was it that day or the next day you walk into your office?
I actually went in the day of the inauguration. Okay. So I appreciate you giving me the time, because I want to. So the other thing that people have posted a lot on Facebook, and I do read it, I won't interject. Because I said during the inauguration, I'm not gonna run the city on Facebook.
Right.
We're not gonna run the city, but I do pay attention to the comments, and sometimes when people have a good comment, I write it down and I say, hey, I got to focus on that. But one that was made that I do want to address, Tom, is people talking about the power play that the new mayor pulled to get the inauguration on Monday, January 6th.
Yeah, how dare you not let Steve Saber micromanage your inauguration? How dare you?
Steve, I don't know if you do that because John's in the audience.
I am actually, yes.
So Steve wasn't the one who said that. Steve actually was very good working with me. But I would say this to you. The charter specifies when the mayor takes office.
Right.
That's in the charter. It says the first business Monday in January. So January 6th was not picked by me.
Right.
It's designated by the charter. Now, in full candor, could I have done it during the day? Absolutely.
People work though. I wouldn't be able to go.
That's exactly. So you think? So I've never been to an inauguration before.
Because you work.
Because I work.
Right.
So I wanted to maximize the opportunity for the citizens of Methuen to come out and see the event, and the event was great. For me, the best part of it was when my two little cousins did the Pledge of Allegiance. I loved that.
Yeah, that was cute.
It was awesome. And it was an uplifting experience, and it showed the city. Everybody kind of focused on one message, for a period of time. And that's really kind of what we've got to focus on. Not that we won't disagree on certain things, but that, you can't lose sight of the overall message, which is what are the right things to move the city forward.
Right. And I couldn't figure out why the old outgoing city council thought they should have any say at all as to when the inauguration should be anyway. I mean, or when the next meeting for the city council should be. The new city council coming in is perfectly capable of scheduling their own meetings.
I'm gonna take the fifth mostly, but I would say, I read the minutes. The minutes say that I received an email from the outgoing city council and that it was taken off the agenda because I didn't respond to it. I just want to clarify for people. So they were using the wrong email address, so I never got any email. And the city council clerk can attest to that. So the one thing I won't do, and I say this candidly, is I was brought up by a Marine who was a police officer eventually, and no, that doesn't make me preferential to that contract, but he instilled in me a sense of right and wrong. So I won't lie. When I screw up, I'm going to stand here or sit on here on this show and say, I thought I was doing this and I screwed up.
Right.
But I'm not going to lie. So I didn't get any email from the city council because they sent it to the wrong email address. And so it's as simple as that, right? Communication. And we had sent a letter. And they felt the need for me to go and respond, and it's over and done as far as I'm concerned, right? Much ado about nothing. We had a great inauguration from my perspective. I enjoyed it tremendously.
You know what I enjoyed about it? It wasn't too long.
Yeah.
I go to some of the Lawrence inaugurations, and sometimes they go like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And everybody has to make a speech, and the city council president has to make a speech, and the school committee president has to make a speech. And I walked into yours thinking, I got things to do. I was on deadline. This guy's
Irish. He's going to talk forever.
Yeah, he's going to talk forever. And then I got the speech in advance, and I said, well, no, actually, this is kind of a short speech. This is good, but I don't know who else is going to speak. But at the end of the night, I said, no, this was good. It was the right length. You didn't talk too long. I thought it was a pretty good speech as speeches go, and I really liked that you.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It was pretty good. Well, I mean, as speeches go. I mean, I write speeches.
This is good.
I write speeches for a living, so I have a much higher bar than most people.
You know what I loved about it, Tom? To be honest with you, not what I said. There's groups out on Facebook that are already soliciting Trader Joe's and Wegmans for Methuen.
Well, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's good. Yeah,
Keep
that
it up.
is.
Saturate them.
Yeah.
Go out to their websites and saturate them. Let them know that Methuen is open for business.
So let's talk about a little bit of the controversy that has started since you become mayor. I know it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that there are people who would, just be against you just for the sake of being against you.
Yep.
Jana DiNatale, my spirit animal, former member of the Methuen School Committee, you hired her to be your chief of staff.
I did.
And there were people, including John, who's here today, who said publicly, she can't take that job and, making up excuses. It says in the charter there's a cooling off period. I read the charter. I'm not an attorney. I don't think you need to be an attorney. I think it's pretty clear. It says she can't take a job under the jurisdiction of the school committee for a year. And chief of staff is not under the jurisdiction of the school committee. So I'm not sure what the controversy was, other than they just don't like Jana because she worked on your campaign.
Yeah. Jana.
Right? Jana. It's Jana. And she was very vocal during the campaign on Facebook. And I think a lot of people on the other side didn't like that. Yeah. And so they were just looking for excuses for you not to hire her.
Yeah. Well, so
she does kick puppies, I heard.
In the past, and John, I hope you don't mind. John and I have, in the long past, we exchanged pleasantries on Facebook. I don't think it ever got mean-spirited, but we had opposite points of view, and that will happen with adults. Now, having said that,
but the facts don't comport with what was said.
Well, so listen, the root cause is the charter is not. People are going to hate this. It's not really well written, right? And we can debate that all night. But when I come from an environment where, I was the compliance lead for global supply chain at Raytheon, and my responsibility there was the federal acquisition regulations. And this is not new to me because the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, it's written. You read it, I read it, Mark reads it. We're going to get three different views of what that says.
But under the jurisdiction of the school committee is pretty clear.
It is.
There's no ambiguity there.
It is to me, and to be honest with you, I went. This is where you got to be careful because people said I went around and shopped for opinions. I had done all my due diligence before Thanksgiving. So I spoke to the state's foremost charter law expert before Thanksgiving. I had an opinion. I spoke to the State Ethics Commission and somebody who helped co-write the cooling off ordinance before Thanksgiving. So I wasn't shopping for an opinion, but I'm trying to be respectful. If you looked at the announcement when I hired Jana and I'm of the mindset that what we're going to do together, because a good leader hires people that complements his or her skill sets.
Well, I think it's the best hire that you've made. I mean, it's the only hire
thank
that you've made. Except for the other one that we will get to.
So, the bottom line is you look for people who complement your skill sets, and that's what you do. And I'm confident so the proof is in the pudding, and I'm accountable, whether it's for Jana or for Tom Lucier. And so at the end of 2 years, the people of Methuen will hold me accountable. My view is much before that, even the people who didn't support me will see, what it is that we're being able to accomplish and how we're able to do it. And I'm, beyond pumped is the word. We're only day 4 of the job, but I would tell you that I'm excited and looking forward to every day. And, I
know Jana's loving the job. I asked her last night. She was thrilled.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes
It's Jana.
Yeah, it's Jana. I've thrown so much stuff her way. She's like, yikes! Maybe she made a bad decision.
She can handle. Listen, if she wanted to, she used to be a former DA, right? She used to work in the DA's office. She's a former prosecutor. She could go to any big law firm in Boston and start off with $400,000 a year. It's not like she needs the job.
Yeah.
The other person that you hired, however,
I did.
I think had a little bit of a disagreement with.
We did, and that's okay.
And I still have a disagreement.
Yep.
And I think it's because you're not a politician.
Yeah.
That you weren't thinking politically what the ramifications would be during the entire campaign. The only real criticism that anybody had of you that could have had any kind of teeth to it at all was that you were going to be a puppet for Sharon Pollard, and Sharon Pollard was going to be running your administration. Yeah. And you said, no, that's not true. I'm my own guy. They're not going to have anything to do with the administration. They have their own lives. They have their own businesses. They're not going to be part of this.
Yeah.
And then the second person you hired was Sharon Pollard's husband.
Yeah.
And everybody, including me, went, hey, wait a minute. I mean, I ran around telling people what you were saying, because I believed you, that they were going to have no part in the administration.
Yep.
And now they do.
Yep.
And so that...
Well, they don't. They don't.
Well,
he does. Right, so don't go down on me.
Sorry.
All right, have a drink.
I'm good.
So they don't. He does, and let me tell you how I got there. Right. So, and you can agree to disagree, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to go back to.
And I like Tom. It's not that I think he'd do a bad job.
Peace.
I just think politically it was a bad idea.
So listen, and I respect that. But when I sat back and looked at what I need to do, I'm going to be candid here. I need to make progress in Methuen in year 1. A 2-year term is a very short term. So I've got to do measurable, accountable things in year 1. And one of the big sides I need to do is the commercial side, the business side. So, I know people have issues with Sharon and Tom.
By the way, do you know what those issues are? Because I still can't figure it out.
No, I don't, but
Okay.
I'm not going to get into that because that's, in my world, people have a right to have, what people think about you, what people think about me. So people right now can post anything they want about me on Facebook, right? In 6 months' time, I know that people are going to see that I understand where we need to go with this city. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. I'm just saying that from the standpoint of there is I keep saying this to Jana every half hour. There's lots of opportunity. Lots of opportunity. We've begun this week by looking at processes in the city, right? Not people, right? So on Tuesday morning after the inauguration, I had coffee and muffins for the City Hall staff. And to dispel all the rumors that came out, I said, so if you wait for me to fire you all, you can breathe now. Right? I'm going to ask 1 million dumb questions for the first 2 months. Why do you do that? Why do you do this? And that process has begun. And many of the City Hall employees could tell you, yeah, he's asking some dumb questions, right? But the thought behind that is looking at the processes, not looking at the people.
Right.
Because the most typical answer you get when you talk to any employee or department chair, whatever you want to call them, right, is, well, we could do more if we just had more people. I don't think that way. I'm not wired to think that way because I come from an environment that said, here's a budget, and by the way, we're going to take a 20% challenge on it, so you're going to manage to that budget.
Right.
And so you figure your processes out that you can provide the maximum amount of services with what you're allowed. And so, I see a lot of good employees around me at City Hall. I see some processes that are pretty, what's the Christian word for this?
Archaic?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if archaic. And let me use one. There's a lot of paper at City Hall, a lot of paper, and maybe that's because we haven't put funding in the right sources. Right? There's paper everywhere. You and your friends could not come and smoke at City Hall. It would be a fire hazard.
Right.
Right. And so I want to get back to the Tom Lucia thing because you asked the question. So when I sat back and looked at how the office was constructed, the previous mayor had 4 people in the office, including him.
Right.
He had a chief of staff who was also the chief operating officer. That was a title that they had put in that position. Then he had a staff executive, and then he had an administrative assistant. And so, to me, the staff executive is something I'm used to at Raytheon. That's not really a role I need. Right. So in my mind, I began looking at some of the things that we put in the vision, and by then we had started the transition questionnaires, and we've got these 4 awesome transition committees that are giving us stuff. That sounds terrible. Action items to kind of look at, and we're melding all of that into short and long-term goals. And when I looked at that, I said, well, it doesn't make sense the structure that it is. So I took the chief of staff for the day-to-day stuff, and that's where Jana is working.
It's
right?
Jana.
Yeah, it's Jana. Don't forget that. Now, when you see your friend Friday night, don't forget to say it's Jana.
Yeah, well, there better be a poker game Friday night, and none of the Sons of Italy bull crap.
And then on the right-hand side, to me, there's project kinds of things. And those project kind of things, one of them we talked about, this morning was, the city of Methuen has not made a lot of progress on this EPA directive that is impacting all these cities, right, on storm drainage. And so that's not a simple, day-to-day thing. That requires a plan and a specific course of action and measurable results. And to me, bringing Wegmans and Trader Joe's was not part of an inauguration speech. And if you don't believe that, call Bill Buckley's office. He can tell you I'm all over them already to get them in so that I can walk them through and passionately, help them understand that Methuen is a perfect opportunity for them. Right? And that's whether they're at the Loop or someplace else.
Mm-hmm. What is a Wegmans? Because I've never heard of a Wegmans.
Is a grocery store par excellence. Okay. Now, so some people, immediately say, well, you don't like Market. I love Market Basket, right? My understanding is Market Basket is not interested in the old Stop and Shop.
Okay.
Right? If they were, I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk to them. But at Wegmans, the closest one to us is Burlington, Mass. I'll take you on a ride down there.
Okay.
And if you walk through the store, and I say this to anybody, we'll make a field trip. We should rent a bus and take Methuen residents down to Wegmans in Burlington.
I'm not a Methuen resident,
Well, we'll let certain people from North Andover or Salem, New Hampshire come with us.
Okay, very good.
And if you see it, I picked Wegmans and Trader Joe's not accidentally. Wegmans and Trader Joe's both have cult-like followings. And I mean that sincerely. You've got to understand that you put a Wegmans in Methuen, you're going to get people from southern New Hampshire going there. I'm not ready to give up on the Loop.
Okay.
Right? As people during the campaign said, Tuscan Market, the Riverwalk, the Loop is dead. No way. We're going to make Methuen a destination place for certain things. And if you look at today Miller's Tavern opens. And so go to Miller's Tavern, John, after and have. My understanding is, and I haven't been there before, but I've eaten at other places they own, fantastic food, right? And we need something like that there because the previous 3 occupants at that site have been chains, right? This is something special. But go back to Wegmans and Trader Joe's. They cult-like followings. My kids are 20-somethings, late 20-somethings.
Good kids, too.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that. They will drive 30 miles to go to Trader Joe's.
Really?
Yeah. So I've got.
And what is Trader Joe's? Is it a restaurant?
Oh, Trader Joe's is. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's kind of a wholesale marketplace. So don't confuse the two. Wegmans and Trader Joe's are very different, but they're alike in the fact that they have cult followings for both of them, and people will go miles to go to either one of them.
Okay.
Trader Joe's to me is more of a discount grocer / store, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my kids, as an example, will go down there. So before I go too far, I didn't talk about Trader Joe's because, my kids like it. I went once with them to Trader Joe's. I saw how many people were there. I started talking to people. They're not coming from a mile away. They're coming from 20, 25 miles away to go to Trader Joe's. And they got things like a 2.5-pound Hershey bar, right, that they sell really cheap. And so I'm looking at that saying, this is amazing to me. Now, I have a son who lives in, one of my sons, my oldest, lives in Somerville.
Okay.
And he teaches in Revere. And we go in, I don't know, every 2 to 3 weeks, and we have dinner with him. My kids like to do it at Assembly Row so they can scoot to Trader Joe's after. So one of those trips, I went into Trader Joe's with them just to see and it's an experience, Tom, right? So very, very different
They should
stores.
hire you to be their spokesman. You're doing a pretty good job
They should.
promoting them.
Well, we should get them to advertise. But then I don't want people saying
Listen, I'll be the first guy in their office to get them to advertise on this show.
Well, so
it costs a lot of money to run this program.
So anybody who's listening from Wegmans or Trader Joe's, I'm going to look at the camera and say this, or any other, King's Bowling, something like that. Methuen is open for business, and we're going to speak the language of business, and we're going to convince you to come do business in our city because we've got a great city. And part of how we're going to convince them is we're going to stop down-talking everything that goes on in the city. We're going to criticize me personally. I'm okay with that. Don't criticize the city. So, there's plenty of room for improvement. And when we do the website, in my mind, I'm thinking about a spot where residents can say, hey, John Saban can write, this tree got knocked down. It needs to be removed, right? That's actually probably a bad example, but you know what I'm saying, John, right? There's a snowstorm and something's blocked, right?
All right.
Versus, going out to Facebook 11 minutes after the snow ends and my corner hasn't been shoveled. I think we have to, we're looking at, I met with the resident, Diane Debs. I'm going to give her full credit. We're looking at a kindness day for Methuen. That may sound to you like, motherhood and apple pie.
I thought that's what Methuen Day was. Eunice is going to be very upset with you.
Yeah, well, no, this is a little bit different to me.
Okay.
So I love
Kindness Day?
Yeah,
I won't be there.
You'll be giving out hugs.
No,
You'll be selling hugs for $1.
Could probably make some money on that. Now that I'm thinking about it. But it won't be about kindness.
Yeah. But we'll fully support, Methuen Day, since you bring it up, is, and to Eunice and Jess, I say, outstanding. Mm-hmm. Outstanding. That's when you see the best of the community, something like that, when everybody pulls in the same direction. So I don't want to misinterpret. I want people misinterpreting and saying, he's saying don't criticize his decisions. I'm not saying that. Right? The decisions can be criticized. I would rather you come down to City Hall, walk into the mayor's office. The door is open all the time. Walk in and say, I think that was a really stupid decision you make. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Right?
I told you that, and
Yeah.
you're still talking to me. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because
and again, I don't want Tom to think that I don't like. He's a good guy, and he's very capable.
He's crying.
He's very capable, and I almost said something to him inauguration night, but there were too many people around, and I thought it was better for a private conversation. I wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
I wanted him to know what was coming in the paper, and I didn't get a chance to give him a heads up on it. But bring it back to Tom Lucia.
Sure.
So all this economic development that you're talking about, bringing people in, how does Tom fit into that?
So great question. So I don't want people to think he's Bill Buckley on steroids, but I used that EPA thing because that's something that would be public works. I used the Wegman and the Trader Joe's as those are projects in my mind. Those are not day-to-day activities,
Right.
and they need to be planned out accordingly. And, like him or not, I've worked with Tom Lucia in the past, and he has exceptional organizational skills. And even people who don't like him will admit that. Right? I happen to like the guy, and I'm going to defend him. If he does something wrong, that's on me.
Right.
That's not on him.
Oh, believe me, you'll hear about it on Facebook.
I get it, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I thought these through before I named them. So, but I'm going back to in 6 months' time, I believe the city will start to see we have a vision to move this forward. The kindest compliment that was paid to me is Paul Fahey, the outgoing chief of staff. We sat with him for a period of about a month and a half. And he was terrific. He really was terrific, helping us. And he's in Amesbury now. And if he's watching this,
You're
Paul,
kidding.
we wish you the best.
Amesbury hired him?
Yeah, Amesbury, right? Yeah. And
Wow.
we wish him the best of luck.
Oh, yeah, we wish him
I
the
would
best.
tell you he did, so you cannot poke holes in him because he took shots for the mayor.
Yep.
Right? The
He
mayor
did.
has to go. I'm going to the council meetings because when I make a decision, it's me that should take the
I agree.
feedback, positive or negative, right? He did a very good job preparing us in the transition. And, I explained to him how I wanted to approach certain things. And the nicest thing I've seen on Facebook is, January 6th, first thing in the morning, there's a post from Paul Fahey about me saying, I got the chance to work with the incoming mayor over the last month and a half, and I can truly appreciate his vision for this city. And I said that a guy who was really on the other side of the coin, right, politically, but that's a perfect example where we all have to be. This is not about I won, you lost, haha.
Right.
This is about what are the kind of things we're going to do to move the city forward. And I know I keep saying that, right? We do that together. That's not all on one person, right? I need everybody who lives in this city, and I'm going to keep repeating this. I'm not saying necessarily they agree with everything I do. They don't agree with Tom Lucia had. That's okay. Wait, watch, and measure the results. Right. That's the proof, because words are cheap, actions speak volumes.
I think the problem is that you said before the election that they wouldn't have anything to do with your administration.
Yeah.
And then now they do.
Well, to be 100% frank, the claim before you got me right in the middle of sip of coffee.
I apologize.
That's all right.
I'll make my questions longer.
No, that's okay. The claim was that I would be Sharon Pollard's puppet.
Right.
And so I'm not going to say anything that would dissuade anybody from believing that. That's never going to happen, because whoever is in that 29% or more that agree, that believe that that's going to happen, they're going to believe that until they see the actions that show them otherwise. And so, when I sat back and thought about who I was going to bring on, one of the reasons it took me so long to come out and talk about my staff was that very reason, right? I wanted, you said something very important in the beginning. I'm a business executive. I'm used to people critiquing a decision I make, but not to the extreme that it happens in government, in Methuen.
Politics, right.
In politics, it happens. Everybody's got an opinion, and that's okay. So my message in my inauguration speech was, at least give me the courtesy of believing that I'm making decisions in good faith. I'm trying to do the right things. You may not like either of the two persons I hired, but that's on me, right? And if we show progress, are people going to come back out and say, "Oh, I was wrong"? I doubt it. And so I'm not looking for that, but I'm looking for, at least give the administration a chance to get things done, because I know we can do it.
Right.
So
We have a question from Ed Quinn. He says,
I love Ed Quinn.
He wants to know if you plan on going to all of the city council meetings, even when they start to get contentious. The last mayor we know came to like the first 5 or 6 meetings, yelled at everybody at every single meeting, and then just stopped showing up.
So Ed Quinn is a wonderful human being, and I'm proud to know him. He used to work for me at Raytheon. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. So I probably shouldn't have said that, Ed. I'm sorry. So Ed knows how focused I can be as a leader. And I said that for an example. He's not a planted question by me, just in case somebody's thinking that, right?
Well, I saw you at the meeting at the city council meeting the other night, and I think one of the councilors thanked you for being there, given that the last guy never showed up.
Yeah, that was Councilor McCarty.
And I thought the same thing that Ed asked, that he's there now, right? Yeah. What about 6 months from now when McCarty and the other councilors start kicking the crap out of you over stuff?
Well, so to me, kicking the crap out of you is when I deserve to have the crap kicked out of me, then they should kick the crap out of me.
There are times when you're going to need it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I'll be the first one, as I was with Tom Lucier.
Yeah, I'll forget I'm 62 and I'll take you outside.
All right, okay.
I'll have my man John
Joe
help
Biden?
me.
You're going to challenge me to an arm wrestle?
I'll get you down, and then my man John will come help me.
All right, very good.
No, I say this. So if you listen to my speech, I am a big believer in the executive and legislative process. Mm-hmm. It's a belt and suspenders approach, and when it works fabulously. I wouldn't be here had it been working. And I get that the citizenry are dubious. I saw one Facebook post that posted my inauguration speech and said, hopeful but skeptical. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You can't ask for any more than that.
I get it. Yeah. And so I say, I'm not angry with that.
No.
Right? That would be, if we elected Mother Teresa for mayor.
There would still be people complaining.
You've got to wait until you see the results. Right. So the actions will be, I keep going back. Actions speak volumes. Words are cheap. Right? So I'm not a person who commits to doing something with an individual and then walks away. Mm-hmm. So I sent the councilors a note. I'll give you a perfect example. I appreciated I did not meddle in the council election at all. I'm going to say that for the public. I did not meddle at all. I didn't speak to any councilor about being elected for chair or vice chair. There are many people who thought I should, but I did not.
Yeah, I did, but you didn't.
That's fine, and that's fine. But you weren't. So you weren't doing my bidding for me.
No,
right? So. Has been speculated.
I asked the candidates after they won, who do you like for council president?
Yeah.
I took a poll in my head as to where everybody was. Yep. Some of them said to me, well, what do you think? Who do you like? Yeah. Who do you think? And I gave my opinion.
Yep.
And, of course, I was accused of meddling. But, it's interesting that you didn't do that because I, like everyone else, assumed that you probably were.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't. But a lot of people probably did. And they're welcome to it. Maybe I'm naive politically.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So, but here's the thing.
Give me 6 months, though. I think that'll go right out of you.
That's right. So, what I've said to my team is we're going to work with whoever gets elected. Mm-hmm. So I told you at the beginning that we've set up a biweekly meeting with Councilor McCarty. That is to improve the communication. We had 2 things come up that I say candidly that were issues that came on grants or events that happened before my administration took over. I specifically took the actions. I think the councilors who used to call in the department heads, I sent them what I consider to be a respectful note yesterday saying, just for the record, I'm going to attend all the sessions. And when I don't give you an answer for the city, I will take the action to follow up. I sent them, they asked 2 questions that I did not have the answers that they're ready for. And part of that is us learning to communicate with each other and what we're looking for.
Sure.
I sent them an email explaining in detail each of those 2 actions. So I went back to Maggie Dupre, the CAFO, who's a terrific employee. I went back.
You're going to bring her on here at some point.
I am. She's terrific.
We want that.
Well, as we start to go into budget season, I think that's a great time to have her on. Mm-hmm. And then what was the second thing was...
wasn't there a sewer problem?
That was
over
one
on Pelham Street.
The thank you. So you helped me. So we had an emergency issue. We're on Pelham Street last Saturday. So this is what people got to understand. So last Saturday, Mayor Jajuga was still the mayor. there was a 12-inch water break on Pelham Street. And the complexity of the water break and the proximity to the gas line forced the DPW to make a fix that I used the analogy at the council meeting. It's like when you have a blocked artery, they made a little loop around it. The problem with it is the loop around it would not provide significant water pressure. Therefore, in the event of a fire or something in that end of town, it would severely hamper water flow. Or if any resident knocked over a fire hydrant accidentally, the water flow in the west end of the city would have dropped right down. I have an obligation to go to council and explain that. I went and, in my mind, I took a pretty detailed plan that showed, here's what happened, here's the pictures of it, here's the quote from the contractor to fix it with line item for each thing, here's the cost of the police detail, etc. And we presented that as an emergency measure to the council, and they agreed with me, and they approved it. And we've got people doing the work. I think it's tomorrow morning. And that's important.
So right out of the gate, like your first week, you're dealing with emergencies.
We are. But you know, I use that because it actually happened on Mayor Jajuga's watch, but it's not like it goes away because you've created this side flow, right? I have an obligation to come to them. And I think the chair and the council handled it perfectly, to be honest with you. Councilor Saber asked me, that was the second action. That's how I got here. A question on the cost of the police detail, and I didn't have the figures at the readiness, so I did not want to answer it directly. I said, I'll get back to you. So I sent a note to them late yesterday afternoon that said, here's the answer on issue A, here's the answer on issue B. This is how I would prefer to handle things, that if there's actions coming out of the council meeting that I haven't addressed for you fully, I will take them. I'm a copious note taker, Tom.
You see, I don't take notes.
I take notes. And so I if you watched, I was writing during the council meeting, right?
Yep.
And I wasn't writing, I really like Tom Duggan. I really like Tom Duggan.
You'll get accused of that, though.
No, I won't. So I am hopeful. So I'll use the term that people, I am hopeful that the relationship between the council and the mayor is going to be collaborative in nature.
Right.
There is no we, they. That's what people got to understand. It isn't the council versus the mayor or the council versus the administration.
Well, it shouldn't be, but sometimes it turns out that way.
Well, and I think, the root of most of that is typically in the communication. So the communication style has definitely got it. You mentioned, and I'm not going to, kick Mayor Jajuga when he's out the door. You've got to be able to communicate complex issues pretty clearly. And so, as Jenna would tell you, we've already spent some time with our staff talking about how I perceive us communicating with the council. How we have to stop, clouding issues. Let's go in and talk about, here's the issue.
Yep.
Here's what happened. Here's what we need to do. Here's the other options, and here's what we're asking you to do. And that's the approach. You've got to make it crystal clear for the council what you expect them to do, and I think they appreciate that, to be honest with you.
So the last time you were here a month ago, you weren't the mayor yet, but you were meeting with people. I asked you if you had met with Chief Solomon and if you had met with the Police Superior Officers Union. Since then, Jajuga has asked for a continuance on that. It's going to come up, I think, in February at some point.
March.
Or in March.
Yep.
Thank you. Have you now sat down with the Police Superior Officers Union and said, okay, let's talk turkey?
No, I sat down with the. So I did sit down with Chief Solomon because you gave me a multiple part of there.
Yep.
Like I've done most of the department heads. I have not yet done the city solicitor, and I have not done the library or the senior center. Right. So those are the three I have left to do, and I plan on doing those.
Come on, you've been in 3 days. You haven't done everything yet? Come on.
So, but I do. I have talked to Attorney Klein. I have talked to the solicitor, and I've been brought up to speed with on all of the actions related to the Superior's contract. We do have a meeting set up on the calendar to talk about that issue.
Okay.
Right. So I don't want to dodge the question. So we recognize that it's the number one issue in the city and that it's something we need to resolve before we move forward.
Do you think you can get it resolved before that March date, before it goes to arbitration? Do you think you're going to be able to sit down with these guys and just make something work?
Do I want to or can I? They're two different. I want to. I'm not sure I can.
Okay.
All right. I'm hopeful. Right? I'm hopeful.
See, if I had my way, and I'm probably the only person who feels this way, I'd give them the $430,000, and then I'd cut the school department in half, and I'd give the patrolmen the other half of that, and I'd give them $430,000.
So, for the record,
I mean, they're running into burning buildings, they're running toward the bullets, and while the rest of us are running away.
Yeah. So, and we're going to agree to disagree there. I am like you. I am the son of a police officer. I have great respect for the job, and it's a very difficult job. I don't think that the job warrants $430,000. Right, that's my position. That is, but I'm going to.
And we all know that's a bogus number. That's a Tribune number.
I get it. Well, but it's not too far off. I'll be honest with you. So let's say this though. One of the things that we need to do as a group is, if you listen to my speech again, facts and data. So we've got to move away from they are all Satan to this is a terrible contract. We've got to fix the contract. And I think I said this on the last podcast. My father was a Marine. He was a tough Marine. And then he was a police officer and became the deputy police chief of Methuen. And no, again, for the record, that doesn't make me sympathetic to the contract. And then he had heart issues, and he retired from the force and became the CCD director for St. Monica's Parish.
Oh, nice.
He was a converted Protestant. He used to tell me all the time, hate the sin, love the sinner. And so I say to the residents, hate the contract. Don't hate we have good police officers in the city.
They're good guys.
Right? And so we need to separate the two issues, and my administration needs to resolve that contract issue in collaboration with the city council. So I need to know that our council is with me on moving forward in any direction we choose to go. So
you said you difference between whether you can and whether you want to. You say you want to. Do you think you can?
I do think I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And so I'm hopeful we'll have progress to report on that for the next podcast. Not necessarily that it's all resolved, but, you mentioned the March date. And I'm not going to go too far into details other than say arbitration is a risk for both sides. And we still have a pending, ethics issue, et cetera. So, there's a lot still to come. And I would say as a private citizen, and, I've been told I've got to keep some of this. Every private citizen is in some part of the boat that I was in, knowing some of the details, but not all of the details. And, I had the courtesy to sit with the two lawyers who took me from point A to point B. And I think you saw during my inauguration speech again, I recommended that we do the same thing for the councils, especially with 5 new councilors, so that they understand all that's happened and transpired and what the approach of the city is, not just what the approach of the mayor, because this is where the they doesn't work. It's not me or my administration versus the council, right? It's not Janet DiNatale versus the council. It's us as a city. What do we want to do here, right? So that's how we're approaching it.
I have one quick question. Randy Carter online asks, will the mayor have town hall type meetings with residents?
I love it. So that's another initiative. So the answer, Randy, is yes. I committed to do that, and we're going to do those. And we're going to do those regardless of whether we hear, flowers thrown at us or bricks.
One of the things that I want is I want to fill this place.
Yeah.
Like another couple of months. I want to fill this place and let people get up to the microphone. We actually have a mobile mic. And have them get up and ask you questions on the show in a town hall type of setting.
Yeah.
So that the people at home can get the benefit of the answers that you're giving to people when they're asking questions.
And I think we talked last time. I really appreciate that. Right. And so if we could do that, I want people.
It's a matter of getting people here. That's all.
It is. But we could also have them call in. I prefer to have them in person, face to face. You cannot communicate with each other on Facebook. Right? You're not going to hear intent or tone or anything else.
Very true.
And it's too easy to misinterpret what is intended. And I say this, I go back to my friend John here in the audience. We had a very...
He's not your friend. Come on. Is he your friend?
He's a friend. I'm his mayor.
Okay.
Right? We had, 2 years ago or maybe more, we had a very respectful exchange on the, the MOU and the contract, right? And we agreed to disagree. And there were no, curses or swears or anything exchanged. It was a dialogue with differing viewpoints, and that's going to happen. I go back to the charter. In my view, the charter could be much clearer than it is, and not just on Section 4.5. So I was talking to the city clerk this morning. See, that's a mistake. We still think of ourselves in some ways as a town. Right. That's a problem. You look at the section around the inauguration, and I say this for, it could be much clearer on, so it should say that the city government is inaugurated on, I don't know, you pick January 2nd, right, every year. But it doesn't say that. It says the mayor takes office on the first business Monday, right? That's what it literally says. So for those of you thinking that, he could have been inaugurated on the weekend, you can't. Right. Because it tells you when you're supposed to. And by the way, Mayor Jajuga, he and I agreed on this, he's the mayor until January 6th starts, right? He's the mayor, right? So that water main break on the Saturday, I picked it up when I took office, but he makes the initial call on how the city responds to it because January 4th, he's still the mayor. Being mayor doesn't stop on the weekends or nights, right? So.
It's hard to believe that we've actually gone through an entire hour of this show. Sorry. He's so good at filling things in.
We got to get my man John.
We're going to bring John up in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, make it a fast second because I'm running out of time.
So we've got a few minutes left. Do you have any final words for this show?
Yeah.
Stuff that's coming up.
Yeah. So by the time of the next show, my plan is to show the citizens of Methuen first, and then this audience, what we've synthesized for things that we want to do near-term goals, things that we want to do that are intermediate-term goals, and things that we want to do longer-term. And when I say longer-term, I'm talking end of the year. I'm not talking 2+ years. Okay. Right? This is all going to be a one-year plan, and then we will give that to the citizens like a scorecard and say, follow me and grade me. Okay. Right? And that's the approach we're going to take.
I'll be grading you.
I hope you are.
I try to grade everybody. I try to, it's based on my opinion from watching things and interviewing people and talking to people. Yeah. But I do have an opinion, although some people don't like that.
I do plan on having a St. Patty's Day event.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And if you end up with John Mallory, I'm going to be really pissed. Because we're trying to get John Mallory to do the bash, and he's afraid.
I'm definitely going to end up with John Mallory. I'm going to convince John Mallory to do it.
That's just going to really piss me off.
And I'm going to have John at my table, or maybe at your table.
Yeah, well, by then we might be friends.
Peace. Yeah.
Could you talk to John Mallory as his boss and convince him to do the bash?
I can't.
It's really
make him do that.
It's not a bash without John Mallory. I mean, the 3 years he came and did his roast was just the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best bashes we've ever had.
Yeah.
So.
I think we have a meeting coming up with him. All right. I'll ask him.
If you could try, I'd appreciate it. All right, final words.
I have no problem with him making fun of me, if that's what the.
Yeah, no. He's just. I think some of his jokes. Some people get their panties in a snit because they're a little harsh. Sometimes they're racial or ethnic or whatever, and you know how sensitive people are these days.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Final words.
Well, thanks. It's amazing to me that the whole time went by. I am super pumped about this job, and I'm going to do the absolutely best job for the city of Methuen that I know how, and I'm going to convince everybody that lives in the city that I'm your mayor and I'm here for you.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you 2 hours if we can get sponsors to pay for it, because I got to buy the time and I have to pay for Ed and I got to pay for a lot of stuff here.
Let's do that.
But if we can get more
I'll
sponsors,
bring guests with me.
If I can get more sponsors on the show, we will expand the Methuen Manual Perry report for
Happy
sure.
to do it.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you.
Thank you
Coming on, and hopefully we'll talk. Surely we're going to bring on. So I'll do a quick introduction while he's coming on and putting on his headset. And so for probably the last month or two, Steve Saber, City Council of Methuen, his brother John Saber has been kicking the crap out of me all over Facebook, making all kinds of accusations. I'm in Sharon Pollard's pocket. Why don't I ask tough questions? I'm a bad guy. Something about my sister. I have no idea what that was about. And I threw the check challenge out and said, why don't you come on? If you think that I'm not giving the right story, why don't you come on and give the right story? And why don't you say publicly what it is that you're saying on Facebook? And if you have a question for me, I'd be happy to answer it. John, I actually give you a lot of credit for coming in.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for coming on.
You told me I had 10 minutes, but it looks like we're out of time.
No, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I'm paying for extra time. I'm going to give you 10 minutes if we even go a little bit more.
Because I have an appointment.
Okay, it's 10. Ed's got an appointment, so it's 10 minutes.
So we have 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the 10 minutes. I pay extra to go over, so I'm going to pay the extra to go over.
Excellent.
All right. So what is it that makes me such a horrible person?
Well, I never said you were a horrible person.
I don't know. I think you said disgusting, actually. Disgusting human being was the words you used.
Listen, I showed up today because I was issued a very cordial invitation from you on Facebook, which I couldn't see because you blocked me, but
yes.
Some people sent it to me, so I showed up. And you're the one who asked me to come here.
Yeah.
So, you're saying I've been attacking you, and yeah, you're right. I have been, but you're not mentioning that you've been attacking me.
Well, I attack back. Once the attack comes, I'm not going to sit there and take it. Right.
Okay. So why don't we just
you brought up my sister, something about my sister, how I'm a disgusting human being, because something that my sister apparently told you, which had nothing to do with politics. You say I should have no say in the Methuen. I should have no say. I shouldn't have an opinion on the Methuen City Council president because I'm not a resident. But when I endorsed your brother 2 years ago, you didn't seem to think that was a horrible thing because I was a North Andover resident. So I thought maybe you could clear that up for me.
So why don't we get back to the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. The post that you took exception to and that you blocked me with.
Yes.
So after that election for the chair, I didn't think it was right that you called out 3 new counselors for changing their vote. And how did you know they changed their vote?
Because I talked to them.
So you were lobbying for votes?
I actually talked to them. I did lobby for votes. I'm not going. Why would I deny that?
So my question to you has always been, and I'll say it, because I say it on Facebook. Right. You're not a resident. You're not a taxpayer. Right. Why are you so involved with that? That's something that I think should be left up to the taxpayers.
Well, because I was asked my opinion, and I gave my opinion. And I asked every single one of the new incoming councils who they liked for council president and vice president. I was asked my opinion by almost all of them, and the ones who asked me my opinion, I shared my opinion. My opinion was, and I have no problem saying it publicly, that Jim McCarty has an agenda, Jessica has an agenda, Steve Saber has an agenda, everybody else coming in is new. Eunice is the only one that doesn't have an agenda, and everyone likes her. So when I asked, say, for example, like Mike Samad or DJ Beauregard or Joel Ferretra, would you vote for Eunice? Do you like Eunice? They were like, yeah, I'd vote for Eunice. And there were some who gave their word that they were going to vote for Eunice, not just to me, but to Eunice. And then when they got up there and they didn't vote for Eunice, and I would have done the same thing if they said, I'm going to vote for Steve Saber. And then they get up and they voted for somebody else. To me, your word is everything in this business. And when I give my word, if I give my word to you, I'm going to keep my word. And even if it's painful, I'm going to keep my word. Now, sometimes things happen, and you can't keep your word. Your mother gets hit by a bus. Something bad happens. You go out of your way to make it right. And so I thought it was perfectly appropriate, given that there were 3 city councilors who gave their word that they were going to vote one way and then voted another, that I call them out. That's my job, actually, is to call people out.
I felt it was inappropriate to publicly try and humiliate 3 brand new counselors.
I don't think it was humiliation. It's just a fact.
Well, it kind of feels to some people that you're trying to sway that council. And, the mayor got elected on change.
Yes.
Okay? And that was part of the old politics in Methuen. Let's try and sway the council. Let's try and, embarrass people in public. And, he's not even mayor for a day, and it's already started. So I'm here to say,
Yeah, but you're one of them. You're one of the people kicking the crap out of him on Facebook last week about Tom Lucia.
Well, so, okay, let's talk.
You say let's start over, but you're not walking the walk.
But let's talk about Tom Lucia, okay? So, again, he got voted in for change.
Right.
People didn't pick Jen Canan, who I was supporting, right? Because they felt she was the old politics as usual. Right. So what is the first thing the mayor does, which I think is not right, Mayor? And because I was listening to you for an hour, and I agree with 99% of the things you were saying. But he didn't start out with change. You started out with the same old stuff. And that even goes back to Jana. So that's the same old stuff. And you talk about...
Well, Jana's been involved for 4 years.
You talk about the charter, and I will agree the charter is not perfectly written, but that specific part of the charter is crystal clear. You know, Tom, you're like a Washington Democrat reading the Constitution on this thing. It makes no sense to me. It
says under the jurisdiction of the school committee. How is that? Under the jurisdiction of the school, how is the mayor's chief of staff under the jurisdiction of the school committee?
That's not what it says, Tom.
It does. I read it very clearly.
It says no member of the school committee shall, during the term for which he is elected, hold any other compensated city office or, and it goes on, but then it goes, nor shall he be eligible for appointment to any compensated city office or, see, there's a Democratic part. You don't want to read the or, okay? City employment under the jurisdiction of the school committee. This is crystal clear. You can't do this or you can't do that. You can't work for the city side. You can't work for the school side.
I hear under the jurisdiction of the school committee. And Tom, to me, that seems pretty clear.
If you think I'm wrong, a solicitor ruled on it. But we're saying
the same solicitor that your brother and Jim McCarty and others call into question every time he gives them a ruling that they don't like. Suddenly, he gives a ruling they like, and it's supposed to be sacrosanct. I mean, Ricky D'Agostino is challenged constantly on his opinions, and your buddies on the council say, "Yeah, but that's only an opinion." Now he says something that comports with what they want, and suddenly it's etched in stone.
Well, Tom, I'll just say I don't have to be an attorney to be able to read.
Me neither.
I read the word or.
You
know, and you know, here's the thing. You and I probably agree on more things than we think.
Which is why I'm surprised when you
listen,
come on.
I'm a Trump guy. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm all that stuff.
I am too.
I'm dying in here with all this smoke, but it's your freedom to smoke. I can't wait to take a shower. I don't know how you guys do this. But so
smoke shop.
We agree on more things than you think. But there are certain things, and anyone wants to say that I hate Janitor. That's not true. We should follow our charter. We're starting out on why would you even start out on the wrong foot like that?
Well, he explained that while he was up here.
That's all I'm saying.
While he was up here. So I guess my question
I didn't know the crowd could heckle. I would have heckled long ago.
So I guess my question is, if we agree on most things, right, and there are some things that we just on issues don't agree, why the personal attacks? Why dragging in my sister? Why calling me a disgusting human being? Why saying that I'm being funded by Sharon Pollard? Why all of that instead of, you know what, Tom? We agree on most stuff, but I just think you're wrong about this. Then we can have a dialogue. Then we can have a conversation that even people reading can actually learn something, whether I'm wrong or you're wrong.
So let me speak to that, okay? We all say things on Facebook and other things that aren't very nice. And I'm not proud of a lot of the things I've said on Facebook. So I will apologize to you, and I already did this morning.
And I appreciate that greatly.
You know, this divide that's going on in the city is wrong. It needs to stop, okay? We need to work together. Thank you, Mayor. You know, and the mayor made up a good point. The police aren't bad people, and I'm tired of people saying that the police are bad. The contract's bad, but the people themselves are not bad.
They're great guys.
Listen, they're the ones, and I disagree with you when you said cut the schools and give it all the... Listen.
Yeah, that's my view.
Our teachers, our fire, and our police is probably the most important people we have in our city. Why? They keep us safe and they teach our children. So what's more important than that? Yeah. So there's got to be a way to come together. But that contract, you want to use the word disgusting, was disgusting. Right. And where did it come from?
Well, the person that you supported for mayor, but the person you supported for mayor voted for that contract. She voted for it.
I'm going to tell you this.
I mean, I love Jen, but she still voted for the contract.
You cannot blame elected councilors for missing that. Their job is not to be able to understand the contract. Their job is to be able to say, what is the financial input? Tell me what this says in layman's terms. And when it's told to them and they're said it's 0, 2, and 2, it's 0, 2, and 2. That's what they're voting on. So you can blame Jen all you want, but that's not fair.
I blame all of them. I think they should all read the contract. I served on a school committee for 3 years. I never once voted on a contract that I didn't read and understand. And there's a lot of legalese. So I would go to the different lawyers in the school department and say, hey, can you explain what this means? Can you explain what that means? And there were many, many nights when I sat on the Lawrence School Committee where I voted against contracts, teacher contracts, administrative contracts, because I still wasn't happy with the answers that I was getting. I think they are the ones that were supposed to be the stopgap between the citizens and what was going on. And they should have read the contract and understood it, or vote no, vote present. Say, I'm not really sure what this really says.
They relied on the people who should know to tell them. And,
and then they gave Tom Kelly a platinum parachute without answering any questions on his way out the door.
Hopefully we'll get the truth soon from ethics and from the inspection general, right? Because, that contract, from what I understand, changed. Who changed it?
I don't know. I don't know that it was changed.
We're not going to hold people accountable, then we're no better than...
Well, we're assuming it was changed, but I'm being told that it wasn't changed, so let's find... When we find out, then we'll be able to...
Is that my 10 minutes?
It is.
You don't want to pay for another 10, do you?
I wish I could. He's got somewhere to go. Oh. But if you want to come back, I'm happy to have you back on the show.
I would love to come back. Are you going to unblock me?
And if you promise not to make personal attacks, I'll unblock you. You can disagree with me all you want.
Are you going to make the same promise?
I will make the same promise as well, as long as you're not personally attacking me. And I will offer you the same thing I offered Jim McCarty. If you want to write a column once in a while or every month saying how I'm wrong, how I'm one-sided, whatever you want to say, I'll print every word of it. We won't edit a word of it.
Well,
and then
I'm not that bright to... my spelling's atrocious. So
we'll fix the spelling, but we're just not going to change the content of your thing. And that's open, by the way, to anybody who thinks that I'm a one-sided paper. I give one side of any story. You think I'm wrong? You think there's another side not being represented? You represent it. Write yourself a column. I'll publish it. Ed, thank you so much for coming in. We want to thank Climate Design Systems, AFC Urgent Care, Marcoux Towing, Marsan Construction, and the Methuen Police Superior Officers Union. Ed, he says we got to go home, so go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.